It is 3 in the morning. Your eyes snap open, your heart rate ticks up, and you stare at the ceiling, calculating exactly how many minutes you have left before your alarm goes off. You are failing to get your mandatory 8 hours of rest. But we have to ask whether this rigid expectation of an unbroken 8-hour sleep block is an actual strict biological requirement, or if it is merely an artificial byproduct of human culture. If we look at historical records from before the Industrial Revolution, waking up in the middle of the night was considered completely normal. It was a widespread practice known as first and second sleep. Instead of stressing in bed, people used this hour or two of quiet wakefulness to visit neighbors, pray, or read a book by candlelight. What modern medicine often diagnoses today as a failure of sleep, or insomnia, used to be a universal, perfectly healthy way to live. To understand what changed, we need to look at the internal biology of rest. For centuries, researchers assumed sleep was a blank block of time where the brain essentially powers down. These fMRI scans show a very different story. Modern researchers use electroencephalography, or EEG, which is a tool that measures electrical activity. They combine that with functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRI, which is a technique that tracks changes in blood flow to map the brain in real time, proving that sleep is dynamic and multi-staged. During rapid eye movement, or REM sleep, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex becomes heavily downregulated and less active. This is the specific part of your brain responsible for logic, reasoning, and self-control. Meanwhile, the limbic system stays highly active. The limbic system is the brain network that processes raw emotions like fear and excitement, which explains why our dreams are so surreal and intense. Your brain is not powered off. It is taking you on a wild, constantly shifting, multi-stage physiological ride. Because human biology is built to shift naturally through these distinct phases of deep rest, emotional processing, and lighter sleep, trying to force it all into a single, rigid block runs counter to how our bodies actually operate. So, if we are wired for a dynamic, biphasic rhythm, why do we insist on this regimented schedule? In the 1800s, the Industrial Revolution took hold. Society suddenly demanded a highly regimented, synchronized workforce to keep the expanding factories running smoothly. The mass adoption of artificial lighting severely disrupted our natural circadian cues, pushing societal bedtimes much later into the evening. At the exact same time, strict factory schedules and punch clocks forced mandatory early wake-up times for laborers. We took a complex biological rhythm and squeezed it from both ends. Over time, the cultural norm flattened our dynamic, biphasic biology into a single, highly compressed 8-hour block. Getting adequate total rest is absolutely vital for your physical and mental health. But the specific requirement that human sleep must happen in one perfectly unbroken block is a myth born from factory floors, not biology. If you wake up in the middle of the night, it is not necessarily a medical failure. It is often just the ghost of a natural biological rhythm trying to assert itself against an artificial schedule. Sometimes what we assume to be strict default biological rules are simply cultural narratives that solidified later and stuck. The line between natural human biology and artificial human culture is entirely an illusion. Just as the Industrial Revolution shaped our daily habits, big digital